Inside the miner's territory was a brothel, Whitelist. The head of the brothel, Lucretia Hold, managed to keep herself a small piece of autonomous territory, so to speak, thanks to a sufficient amount of dirt. Any information could be obtained from Mrs. Hold, but unlike other gangs and organizations whose main currency was space credits, for Lucretia Hold only information was of value. To get any information from her, it was necessary to give important information in return. That's how the space punks got the information they needed about the previous customer, though Hollow had to tell Lucretia a few secrets about the merchant block that he himself kept up as an ace in the hole. After all, secrets aren't coins. They lose their value when handed over. It turned out that the previous customer had visited the Whitelist brothel often to see one girl in particular. In moments of supreme pleasure, he shared his plans with her. Those plans were successfully passed on to the space punks. So he needed the crown to achieve power, Bo said thoughtfully, and then added, and such a pretty, shiny thing. Who'd have thought it held power? That's not the problem, my friend. Hollow walked out of the brothel and stopped in front of the main street. He flew to planet Titan. Yes, that's a problem. You can only fly there in a day if you have a powerful engine, which our craft doesn't have. Pablo took his handheld Mecon out of his pocket and started typing in the planet's data to calculate an approximate route. That means one thing. We must ask for help. Dr. Smitty M. Cash glanced at Hollow in annoyance. Who should we ask for help? Kirby put his massive hand to his lips and opened his eyes wide like a child. There's only one man, Hollow began. Who are you talking about? Captain Shepard? Torin asked, twisting his blasters in his hands. No, not that piece of shit, Ripley yelled. This is true, Ripley, but only you are capable of bribing this man. Hollow grinned and nodded to the team, and everyone slowly made their way to the main takeoff area. The main runway belonged to Captain Shepard, the pirate who commanded the fastest and most powerful pirate cruiser. The ship's only weakness was the captain himself, the unpredictable Shepard. All he did was plunder, clean his prosthesis, and want to get into Ripley's panties. No, I refuse. That pervert just wants me in his captain's cabin. Ripley shook her head as Shepard's ship appeared on the horizon. What is our motto? Hollow stepped forward and looked at the girl from the height of his 38 years. Command, mission, honor. She answered reluctantly. Now tell me, Bo, you're going to have to sneak onto the ship unnoticed. Shepard will definitely agree to take us on the ship if Ripley doesn't refuse to visit his quarters. You'll always need a doctor and an engineer on the ship, but there'll be too many of us with you. Try to sneak into the captain's quarters, and if Shepard starts getting handsy, you'll knock him out quietly. Remember, stealthily. Kirby and I will be on the lower deck. I'll need to think about our next move. But you've got a plan, haven't you? Just two, but we may need more. Hollow walked towards the ship. Several sailors were trying to hoist heavy barrels of nano powder aboard. A few minutes later, there was a rush on the takeoff pad. The ship was getting ready to leave. Standing on the dock was a short man of short stature with a sturdy build. His thick red beard was immediately conspicuous. Large, thoughtful eyes with a bewildered look escorted the sailors, and thick lips shouted orders. Quickly! You bring it here! Idiot! His eyes ran from one sailor to another until his gaze collided with Hollow's steely gaze. "Hollow!" Shepard clutched the fruit in his hands, which he was methodically brushing with the hook-shaped prosthetic that was replacing his left arm. "Captain Shepard," Hollow stood before him. "What an honor, the Dark Captain himself." Shepard smiled with his wooden teeth and with his hook gently peeled some of the rind off a compressed mango. "We need to get to Titan." "Good luck." Shepard tilted his head slightly to the right and glanced at Ripley, who was trying not to notice the captain's smutty stare. "We need your help, Shepard, and we're willing to pay for it." Hollow kept looking at the pirate. "I can't help. I've already taken the extra cargo." The captain bit his lip and slowly slid his gaze over the girl's figure. "Extra cargo? And by chance aren't they idlers like us, planning to land on the same planet?" Hollow forced a smile out of himself, but inside, his heart was covered in a layer of stone. What he feared the most. It wasn't just the miners who got the contract, but the other gangs as well. "Why do you want that information, Hollow?" Shepard grinned predatorily. "I want to know whose price to beat." "You won't outbid them," the old pirate grinned. "And what if my currency proves more valuable?" Hollow took a step to the side and exposed the girl to Shepard's view. Ripley immediately faked a smile and walked imposingly toward the pirate. Shepard's eyes immediately glittered. He pierced the mango with his hook and then lifted his right hand, which he immediately held out to Ripley. "My dear Ripley, I will be honored to take you aboard and treat you to some fine wine in my quarters." "And get in my knickers," thought Ripley, but she thought a more courteous reply was needed. "I will gladly accept your invitation, dear Captain." Ripley curtsied unsteadily and cast a sultry look at Hollow. The latter held back a laugh. "In that case, please come aboard." Shepard made a circular gesture. Hollow nodded and everyone followed him. Shepard remained below giving final orders. Taking advantage of the moment, Hollow stopped on the deck and turned sharply toward Pablo. "Find Bo and tell him there's been a change of plans. There are probably other gangs on the ship, so he'll be our ears and eyes from now on." "What about me? You mean you're still offering me?" "Hollow, I can't drink that much." Ripley shuddered at the thought of the old pervert touching her. "There's no need to be modest, Ripley. You and Torrin both have bottomless stomachs when it comes to drinking." Hollow took a small vial of clear liquid from his pocket. "One drop and he'll go right to sleep." "And what happens if you add a few drops?" The girl snatched the vial from Hollow's hands. "He will lose his memory. They are harmless, but not too much." "Lose your memory? Then I'll pour out the whole vial so the bastard will forget about me." The Dark Captain nodded to Kirby, and with that, him and Torrin hurried down to the lower deck. As they did so, Torrin threw his hood over his head and Hollow lifted the collar of his coat, thereby hiding his face. As soon as Shepard boarded the ship, the boatswain immediately began shouting orders. Soon the ship was underway. Ripley watched without interest as each sailor performed their task. The ship had already picked up speed, and Ripley was aware of what was coming next. "Dear Ripley." Shepard slid over to the girl and winked. The communications expert rolled her eyes imperceptibly and spoke with a smile. "I can't wait to get to your quarters. Shall we get started already?" "Oh, Ripley, you read my mind." Shepard took her hand and led her to his quarters. Dr. Smitty remained at the cabin door. He was the only one who cared about Ripley. The captain's cabin turned out to be a spacious room with large wooden windows. In the center was a wooden table with a dark covering on which stood various things: skull, map, blaster, and the like. On the wall opposite hung a large painting, and beneath it was a bed. Well, what's good, my dear? Shepard began to take off his shirt. Stop, Ripley yelled, and her hand slid down to the blaster on her belt. What is it? Shepard looked wary. You're not even going to offer the lady a drink? She immediately relented. Oh, pardon me. Where are my manners? The pirate went to the table and retrieved a bottle from under it. The glasses were placed on the table. Shepard carefully poured the liquor into them and lifted the glass. Ripley was disgusted with combining the pleasant with the repulsive, but at stake was the successful completion of the mission and the possibility of getting her club back. She took the glass, clinked it, and emptied the contents in one gulp. Shepard immediately proceeded to undress. Can I ask you something? The girl spoke timidly. This behavior was new to her, but she had to play along. Another drink? Shepard immediately winked. Now I'd like you to turn around. I'm a little shy, she answered and lowered her eyes. Oh, come now, dear. We are, after all. Oh, please, noble pirate. When in reality, Ripley wanted to say, Turn around, you dirty fucking bastard. Shepard bit his lip. There was a struggle in his eyes. He wanted to pounce on the girl and take her by force at the same time. But on the other hand, he wanted to play the noble gentleman a little more. So he nodded and turned away while continuing to undress. Ripley immediately pulled out a vial and emptied the entire contents of the vial into a glass. I hope it kills you, you bloody pervert. Thank Hollow that I didn't shoot you in the head. Are you done yet? Shepard asked playfully. Yes, my pirate. The pirate turned and noticed that Ripley hadn't even taken off her boots. He glanced at her in surprise, and the girl could see the anger in his eyes. I thought it would be better if you undressed me, she interjected instantly. Shepard jumped at the thought. He stepped around the table behind Ripley and ran his healthy hand along her thigh. Meanwhile, the girl poured the liquor into glasses and wiggled her hips and held them out to Shepard. With pleasure, the pirate snatched the glass from the girl's hands and immediately emptied it. Come on, sweetie, every last drop. The pirate set the glass on the table, and before he could open the first button of Ripley's shirt, the sleeping pills began to take effect. Rolling his eyes, Shepard collapsed to the floor. The communications expert adjusted her clothes and tried to carry the captain to the bed. There she undressed him completely and covered him with a blanket. Taking a bottle from the table, she poured some onto the bed and onto the captain himself. I hope you sleep all the way through.